You've seen the post. Medieval peasants only worked 150 days a year. It resurfaces every few months, usually shared by someone who has just survived a Monday. It's false. The number traces back to a single book from 1993, which cites a 1935 article by the historian Nora Kenyon, while quietly skipping Kenyon's own conclusion that the normal working year was 308 days. The other economist people cite, Gregory Clark, later revised his own estimate upward to 250 to 300 days. What historians actually land on? Somewhere around 270 to 290 days a year, sunrise to sunset. Call it 2,500 to 3,000 hours, against roughly 2,080 for a modern full-time worker. So let's fix the scoreboard before we start. The medieval peasant did not have more free time than you. He worked harder than you, longer than you, with worse tools, and he did it without painkillers. And that is exactly what makes the rest of this uncomfortable. He worked more hours than you, and on 5 measures of wealth that actually matter, he still beats you. Number 5 ends the argument. Underneath all 5 sits the only question worth asking. We are hundreds of times more productive than that man. What did we buy with it? Let's count. Number 1, control over time. We just established he worked more days than you. Here's what he didn't have: a clock. Medieval work was task-based. You worked until the field was plowed, the sheep were sheared, the roof was patched, then you stopped. Nobody measured your hours, because hours in the modern sense barely existed as a unit of labor. The historian E.P. Thompson built an entire landmark essay around this one shift, task time to clock time, and called it one of the deepest ruptures the industrial world forced on human beings. His year had brutal peaks and real troughs. Harvest would break his back. February would not. Nobody scheduled a February for him. Now yours. Your work doesn't expand or contract with anything real. It fills 8 hours because the container is 8 hours. Finish early and you don't go home. You look busy. Your presence is the product. He worked more hours and owned every one of them. You work fewer and rent yours out by the block, to be filled with whatever arrives. That isn't more free time. It's something worse. And we don't have a word for it, which is exactly why nobody notices it's gone. Quick pause. I started this channel to break down how money actually works. The mechanics nobody bothers to explain. We're early, so every subscriber genuinely moves the needle. If a dead farmer out-investing you is your kind of content, subscribing is free, which in this video makes it the exception. Back to the count. Number 2, a roof the bank doesn't own. His cottage and his strip of land were held by custom and passed to his son. He didn't own them the way you'd own a house. His lord had claims on him, heavy ones, in labor and in grain. That was not freedom. But look at the shape of the obligation. He paid in what he made to a man whose face he knew, who lived within walking distance, whose barn he could see from his field. Now the modern shape. In 2024, the median American home costs 5 times median household income. Through the 1990s, that number was 3.2. Stretch the gap across a 30-year mortgage, and compound interest quietly doubles the price of the house while you sleep inside it. Translate that back for him. You may have this cottage. For the next 30 harvests, the first and largest share of your grain goes to a man you will never meet, in a building you will never enter, in a city you have never seen. Miss 2 harvests and he takes the cottage. He wouldn't call that a mortgage. He'd call it a curse and ask which witch to pay to lift it. Number 3, food you can see. And here is where the romantics lose. So let's be honest. Medieval Europe starved. The Great Famine of 1315 killed something like 1/10 of Northern Europe. Harvest failure wasn't an inconvenience. It was a death sentence with a 2-year fuse. Nobody is selling you that. But hold the failure mode separate from the structure. In a normal year, he could point at his food, the field, the pig, the grain in the tithe barn. His entire supply chain fit inside his field of vision. Yours is ships, ports, warehouses, and just-in-time software across 3 oceans. And you're trusting every link, sight unseen, permanently. Try it as a conversation. Where does your food come from? An app. Before the app, a warehouse. And if the warehouse is closed, we don't ask that. He feared bad weather, and he could see the sky. You've outsourced the fear to strangers, which feels like safety right up until it isn't. You didn't remove the risk. You moved it somewhere you can't look at it. Number 4, people who would notice. The village was, functionally, an insurance company you were born into and could never leave. Barn burns down, the neighbors rebuild it because next year it's theirs. Break your leg at harvest, The village brings your crop in. Parish, guild, extended family, overlapping safety nets, no monthly premium, no claims department. The price was total. Everyone knew everything. Privacy didn't exist. You could never become anyone else. Now the modern ledger. You've heard that loneliness is as bad for you as 15 cigarettes a day. That's a 2010 meta-analysis, and the researcher behind it has spent years pushing back on how casually the comparison gets thrown around. So put the number down. Try this instead. He could name around 200 people who knew his name, knew his father's name, and would notice within a day if he stopped appearing. Now you, not work. Work notices, work sends an automated email. Life. If you stop showing up to life tomorrow, how many days before a human being knocks on your door? For a lot of people, the honest answer is the landlord at the end of the month. He was never alone, sometimes unbearably. You are free, sometimes devastatingly. Number 5, the one that ends it, debt. And I'll correct the internet again here because it gets this one wrong too. The medieval peasant was not debt-free. Manorial court records are stuffed with debt. He borrowed grain, he borrowed livestock, he owed his neighbors constantly. Village life ran on credit. But look at what kind. His debts were owed to people he could see, denominated in things he could grow, enforceable inside a world about 10 miles wide. And for most of the Middle Ages, charging interest was condemned by the church as usury, a sin. Lending existed. Lending as an industry, compounding quietly against a man for decades, did not. Now stack your side. Average credit card balance per borrower, $6,500. Average auto loan, $24,600. Average student loan, between $37,000 and $43,000. Total U.S. household debt, $18.8 trillion. And in the Federal Reserve's own survey, 37% of adults say they could not cover a surprise $400 expense with cash. $400. Here is what that means mathematically, and it is not a metaphor. A measurable slice of every hour you work is spoken for before you work it. It belongs to a signature you made years ago. He owed his lord days of labor and called it what it was, oppression. You owe your lenders a comparable slice of your working life and call it a credit score. He knew exactly who owned that slice, and the claim stopped at the edge of the village. Yours follows you across every border, every job, every device, until it's paid or you're not here. 5 domains. 5 wins for a man with a mud floor who worked 3,000 hours a year. Now the part that keeps this honest. He lost catastrophically where it counted most. A large share of medieval children died before 5. A bad tooth could kill him. A broken leg could cripple him for life. Every childbirth was a coin flip with a life on it. A serf couldn't leave his village without permission, couldn't choose his work, and in some places couldn't marry without his lord's approval. His world was 10 miles wide and it ended there. You can board a plane tomorrow and become someone else on another continent. So no, nobody sane trades antibiotics for feast days. But that's the sleight of hand, and it's the whole point. The trade was never a package deal. Nature never handed us one contract reading, medicine and mobility, and in exchange the mortgage, the loneliness, and a calendar you don't own. The medicine was worth it. The mobility was worth it. The mortgage was not medicine. The loneliness was not mobility. Those were add-ons, and we signed for them without reading the line, which is the actual problem. We have been measuring wealth with a broken ruler. By income, you beat every peasant who ever lived by orders of magnitude. It isn't close, but income was only ever one column. Real wealth is a portfolio of 5 assets: time you control, shelter that isn't collateral, food you can trace, people who would notice you were gone, and a ledger that reads 0. He held 4 of the 5 by default, and history filed him under poor. You can buy almost anything on earth while holding none of them, and the economy files you under success. So the question was never, was he richer than you? He wasn't. He was poorer than you in every way a spreadsheet can see. The question is which of the 5 you are actually building, and which ones you are only financing. Because every hour of overtime buys back exactly none of them.